And, who knows with that? It'd be a coin flip. That'd be pretty crazy.
That's true. Florida, the number 2 team in the BCS right now, which was kind of surprising to me.
Well, they're in the SEC. They've played a pretty tough schedule. They're undefeated. I think that's really all that it came down to.
Yeah, I don't see Florida as the number 2 team in the country at this point. I think they're a good team, but honestly, I still feel like South Carolina is a better team based on the explosiveness of their defense. Now, I was all set to pick South Carolina in this game, no questions asked. And then I saw yesterday that Marcus Lattimore is doubtful for this one.
Well, probably not going to play.
That really puts this one on a very even playing field.
I think so. I've been really impressed with Florida's running attack this year. They've been impressive. I mean, I think they're better than LSU with their running attack. Really downhill runners, kind of the opposite of Auburn right now, but really impressive running the football. I just think South Carolina is going to be really, really mad. They should not have lost that game against LSU. They came out looking really flat. I think they come into the Swamp. The Swamp is an intimidating place to play, but not so much after you've just played in LSU and Death Valley. So I think South Carolina comes in focused. They're ready to play. I think they beat Florida.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. One thing that Florida has really hung their hat on lately has been the running game of Jeff Driscoll, kind of scrambling around. And with Jadeveon Clowney and the defensive line that South Carolina has, I think they can contain him and shut that down. And what I saw out of South Carolina last week in that game against LSU, when LSU was kind of trying to put the game away, and a team like Auburn would certainly have folded, South Carolina drove back down the field with Connor Shaw leading the way, and I think that's the kind of thing that championship teams do. Even though they weren't able to win that game, they made some very significant headway in a very hostile atmosphere, and that's what they're going to face again this week in the Swamp. That place is going to be rocking, probably harder than it's rocked for some time now.
It's a big game.
At least since Urban Meyer has been gone, but I'm not going to doubt the old ball coach here in this one.
Oh, you're picking South Carolina.
I'm going to take South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a tough choice with Lattimore out, but I still feel like that defense. I mean, as soon as I saw Jadeveon Clowney leap over an offensive lineman, I'm never picking against him again.
Right.
I'm just a sucker for that kind of thing.
Now, South Carolina, they do have a different type of defense. They are built more for the pass rush, and Florida's going to run right at these defensive ends who want to get on the outside and kind of speed rush. But I think they've got enough up the middle that they can stop them. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting one.
That should be an excellent game. And now to the lesser conferences of college football. We have to talk about these
games.
Don't
really matter, but okay.
If there were 400 SEC teams, which there will be in the next 2 to 3 years,
right,
we wouldn't have to do this. But let's jump to the Pac-10, Pac-12, however many teams they have now. A Thursday night game starting in approximately 6 hours from now, according to the time change, however that works. Still haven't quite figured that one out. Oregon possibly getting their first real test of the season going on the road to Arizona State. Will they be exposed in this game, or are we going to find out that Oregon really is as good as they look?
Yeah, I think this is going to be the same type of game you saw against Arizona. Arizona was really supposed to test them, kind of running the same style of offense. I think Arizona State has the players, has a style of offense that could beat Oregon. They don't have the players. So I think Oregon's going to demolish them like they've demolished everybody else. I think it'll be probably pretty close early. I think they hang with them for the beginning of the game. Third quarter, they'll score their traditional 21 points and just kind of never look back.
Yeah, I still stand by my assumption early in the season that Oregon, I believe I predicted Oregon will win the national championship.
I think in the national championship.
I can't remember if I predicted them to win, but they still look really solid. I think at the very least they're pretty much the only legitimate threat remaining to dethrone an SEC team in the championship game. Oregon is basically the only Pac-12 team. Maybe you can make a case for USC that is playing defense at this point, so that immediately...
USC's problem is their defense, so I think Oregon probably has the best defense.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty much the only ones that can do that. Arizona State lost to Missouri, a team that's not really that great, so Oregon's had a week off to prepare for this one, let everybody recharge their speed meters, so there's no chance. Oregon probably by 3 to 4 touchdowns.
I like the speed meter concept. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's like Tecmo Bowl, you know.
Right, oh yeah.
Getting right back on that there. All right, so we're both going to take Oregon in that one. Let's jump to the ACC. Virginia Tech playing Clemson. Typically, this would be a pretty big matchup. This year, Virginia Tech, not that great. So
yeah, they're pretty bipolar. This would typically be the week that they come out and have a good game, and they might still, but I'm going to take Clemson because Virginia Tech is just too crazy for me to try to pin down. Clemson's been the more consistent team. I'm going to go with the Clemson Tigers.
Yeah, Clemson's still not able to show themselves as an elite team. They let a very bad Georgia Tech team hang around last week, but Virginia Tech, they gave up 235 yards in the air to Duke.
Right, and we're down big early.
Yeah, so if that's happening against Duke when you match up against Taj Boyd and Sammy Watkins and crew, Taj Boyd had like 400 yards passing last week, so that's probably not going to work out too well for that Virginia Tech defense.
No.
So
sorry, Hokies.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Clemson in that one as well. Let's jump to the Big Ten. They're still at 10. No, they're at 12.
No, they have 12 teams, but they're Big Ten.
That's just ridiculous.
Right.
I can't even keep up with this. Nebraska at Northwestern. This one may be a little bit deceiving.
Right.
Northwestern at 6-1. They were ranked maybe up until last week. But when you look at what happened against Minnesota last week, Northwestern, if you didn't look at any of the stats, which I know you're probably looking at right now, so this ruins my question, but Northwestern playing against Minnesota, how many offensive yards would you guess Northwestern would have?
If I just had to guess, 400 to 500.
Okay. Well, let me narrow it down. How many passing yards do you think they would have?
300.
Okay. What if I told you they had 63 yards?
Did they rush a bunch?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Did they actually win that game?
They did. They won 21-13. They had 212 rushes.
Okay, so that's a pretty atypical Northwestern type attack. I mean, 212 rushing yards, pretty impressive, but
they have been more of a balanced offense than typical Northwestern teams who just air the ball out. So maybe they're changing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still not sold on Northwestern. When I look at Nebraska, Taylor Martinez still has not really improved that much. He's had some mistakes. Had 3 picks against Ohio State. But Northwestern, they lost to Penn State, which I view as a pretty similar team to Nebraska at this point. So, I don't know. They're probably going to come back to bite me, but I think Nebraska has a pretty clear upper hand in this one.
I think they do, but I think that one of the mental keys to this is that Nebraska got just rubbed into the ground at the end of that game against Ohio State.
That's true.
They got beaten and then just beaten, and they're still recovering from that game mentally and physically. I think Northwestern uses that to their advantage at home and upsets them. I'm going to take the Northwestern Wildcats.
All right. We'll see what happens there. Let's jump to the Fighting Tommy Tubervilles now. They have been, I wouldn't say lighting it up, but maybe preventing other teams from lighting it up at this point. They have to take on a TCU team that not quite as good as they normally are this week. When you look at Texas Tech, one thing that you might not know about them is their quarterback, Seth Doge, or you pronounce his last name some way.
It's like that.
He's been putting up some pretty impressive yardage.
That's Texas Tech.
Yeah, but under Tommy Tuberville, that hasn't really been happening.
That's
lately.
true.
So,
I think the most impressive thing about Tech is their defense. I mean, who in the world would have associated Texas Tech in any sort of defense? I mean, they held West Virginia to 14 yards.
Yeah, but it's been impressive. I've heard a lot of Auburn fans saying this week, how much we have to pay Tommy Tuberville to come back? That's probably not happening.
No, I don't think so.
But
Bridges burned there.
Yeah, but when you look at a common opponent of both TCU and Texas Tech, Iowa State, TCU not able to beat the pretty mediocre Iowa State team, and when you combine that with unimpressive wins for TCU over Kansas and SMU, it's hard for me to pick against Texas Tech at this point when their defense is playing so well. I think it's pretty clear going with the Red Raiders here.
I think the only redeeming factor for TCU was that they came back last week against Baylor and were pretty impressive, but I'm still going to go with the Red Raiders.
Yep. All right, so we're both the same there. We're going to jump over to the Big 12 now. Kansas State and West Virginia.
Interesting matchup.
This is a very interesting matchup. West Virginia kind of got exposed last week against that Texas Tech team we just mentioned. Geno Smith not able to do all of it by himself
right
in that game, but I still think it's a very good matchup for him against Kansas State.
It is. I think the one key here for Kansas State is trying to keep the ball away from Geno Smith. They do have a really interesting running attack where they get 2-3 yards every carry and then maybe play action, go deep. But they're a chunk at a time kind of offense. So I think if they can do that and keep the ball out of Geno Smith's hand, they've got a chance. I don't think it happens. I think West Virginia lights it up and kind of gets retribution a little bit on this one.
Yeah, I don't think, like I said, I don't think Kansas State has any chance of stopping that West Virginia attack. And on the other hand, West Virginia's defense is pretty bad, but they might be able to stop a one-man show. I don't know. We'll see. See how that one goes for them.
I'm picking West Virginia.
All right, I'm going to take West Virginia in that one as well. One more game in the ACC. Battle of perennial powers on the hardwood, North Carolina and Duke.
Right.
Duke fighting for that bowl eligibility. They're at 5 wins. You only need one more. North Carolina kind of reeling from sanctions that are here and forthcoming. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Duke kind of looked impressive for a little bit against Virginia Tech, and then the wheels just came off. Virginia Tech rattled off 38 on it. I mean, it was ugly. I think North Carolina actually has a pretty strong team. They didn't show it when they barely won against Miami, 18-14, but they've played pretty well so far. I'm going to take the Tar Heels.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take the Tar Heels in this one as well. They've been playing pretty well on offense. They've looked solid against some good teams. A pretty close loss to Louisville. Wins over Virginia Tech and Miami. I mean, good in a relative sense compared to what you would expect out of North Carolina. Duke, most of their wins have come over a pretty weak schedule up to this point, so I'm going to take the Tar Heels in this one as well. So
we're pretty close this week.
We're pretty close. Let's recap, run through our picks here. Both of us are going to take Alabama over Tennessee. Unfortunately, both of us with Vandy over Auburn. You with Texas A&M,
right?
Over LSU. I'm going to take LSU in that one. Both of us are going to take South Carolina over Florida. Both with Oregon over Arizona State. Both with Clemson over Virginia Tech. David's going to take the Wildcats. I'm going to take the Cornhuskers and Nebraska at Northwestern. Both of us with Texas Tech over TCU. Both of us with West Virginia over Kansas State. And both of us with North Carolina over Duke.
Just a quick baseball update. The Tigers look like they're going to sweep the Yankees. They're up 7-1 in the bottom of the 7th. So Tigers looking to go to the World Series.
Is this the end of A-Rod's career?
As a Yankee, I think. I don't think there's a chance he comes back with the Yankees. He'll still be around for another 5 years. There's also, on our blog, we've got a little article about baseball and why nobody likes it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to take solace in the fact that my Cardinals are doing pretty well.
They're up 2-1.
Yeah, they've been playing well, but it's just not football.
All right, if it's the Cardinals and Tigers, who wins it?
Probably the Tigers.
You think the Tigers? Okay.
I don't know. The Cardinals, I mean, they just don't have the ultimate punch that they had with Pujols there. I mean, they have some good players, but Carlos Beltran went out last night. He's hurt. Who knows if he's going to be back in.
And the Tigers have Verlander.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think the Tigers will win. Plus, this just doesn't seem to be my year with luck, so I'm going to take that one as well. That's all the time we got for outputting our coverage this week. Plenty of good games to watch. We'll be back to recap them all and let you know what's coming up next week here on Outputting Our Coverage.